libertylaughs.net. This is a website that supports grassroots patriots, and it has all kinds of stuff in it, like rings, coins, t-shirts, tank tops, both in men's and women's sizes, different sort of accessories, even patriotic stuff. Like, look at these sneakers, Don't Tread on Me sneakers. Those are pretty cool. And door knockers, and look, they even have a Trump phone case, which is really, really cool. So anytime you go to this site, you're actually supporting the grassroots patriot community. So I hope you guys will go to check out libertylaughs.net and see what they have to offer.
All of us coming back, I cannot accept this fade to black, and the thought of the wasted dreams of a nation down on its knees. Is it already over? Tickets to the circus show. If you don't, then you'll never know. Take a stand while you have know. And while you have the time, drown your fear. Change that you want to see. Be the wrench inside the machine. Is it already over? Is it already over? It's over.
All right, good evening. Welcome to the Wednesday night Small Town Underground live stream. I hope everybody's doing very well out there. Couple of things. Again, we're ramping up for the 2025 Patriot Campout, which will be the main event will be Saturday, October 4th, so expect some video drops this week in the event page, and we'll be kind of ramping up and starting our guest list. I've already been talking to some people, trying to reach out to some people. Again, I'm not getting my hopes up, but I'm trying to get Thomas Massey out there. We'll see if we can do that. It's going to be we're going to have a lot of prayer warriors out there to see if we can get Thomas Massey to join us, but you never know. So won't hurt to try. And I kind of want to show you guys real quick. I'm not proud that I'm wearing this, but man, I'm proud of the shirt. So I ordered the Small Town Underground shirt to make sure that everything went good. So the website is up and running, smalltownunderground.com. That's where you'll go to find all my links. I have a donation link, which is the only link that I have if you want to donate to the show. And, of course, online store that I'm going to be adding a lot of cool stuff to in the near future. So this is one of the shirts. It fits well. I'm going to make sure it washed good, had good quality, and I already got a couple of shirts that are ordered out, so feel free to check out that link. And as always, we appreciate it. So I'm looking very forward to the show tonight. I have a special guest with me, Angel Rosario, who our paths have really never crossed. I've kept up with Angel for a while. I've been reading his Substack. It's outstanding work. I've heard from several people about his political activism, his community outreach, and so we ended up sharing a phone call last week, and it went on about an hour, and we just kind of really connected. I really like what Angel has to say, and I've been thinking about bringing him on the show for a while. So, obviously, as we go through this kind of political clown show and the way that Georgia is now, we have to figure out ways that we come together. We have to figure out ways we move forward. And so we want to make these connections, and we want to try to go forward the best way possible. So I want to welcome you, Angel, to the show tonight. How are you, sir?
All is well. Thanks for the invite. I just want to start by saying I don't do this for fame. I don't do this for fortune. I don't do this for notoriety. I just do it to make a change in the community and spread the conservative word. So I just want to start with that.
Right. That's what I'm getting, man. I want you. A lot of people probably in my area don't really know who you are. So can you give us a little bit of background? I know you're a veteran. You've been in the military. Can you just kind of walk us through your background a little bit? We'll start there.
Yeah, so I served 15 years in the military. I was a Green Beret, predominantly down in Latin America. I've done work counter drug, counter guerrilla, a lot of stuff along the Mexican border with Joint Task Force 6. I was an instructor at the Western Hemisphere for Security Cooperation, which was formerly School of the Americas. So we trained the Latin Americans that were here, that would come to here, and back to Latin America. And I knew most of them because I worked in theater, predominantly Colombia, Peru, and a number of other places where we had heavy strongholds of narcotic trafficking and stuff like that, and guerrilla activity.
Wow.
So my job as a Green Beret was to go in. And or actually, it was a teamwork. I was the engineer on my team, which is also responsible for the logistics. I then transitioned into an intel operations sergeant after I left the advanced course. I went to all of the Special Forces military leadership courses, as well as survival, escape, resistance, and evasion, and a number of other things. So it'll tell you how I formed my background. Basically, the primary mission that we had was to overthrow governments and hostile forces to the United States. With that, there's an aspect that you have to go in theater and you have to be able to build rapport with freedom fighters with a 12-man team. And
Right.
at the end of 6 to 8 weeks, you have a full-fledged conventional fighting force that's going to fight for you, and you got to lead them into battle.
Right.
So the leadership aspect of that is I translated it here to the community, and it's been working really well. Like actually just translating the military stuff into because politics and community go hand in hand.
Right.
So that's my background. I presently work as a information security professional. I've done all aspects within information security, and I have a team in Southeast Asia, and we handle a lot of activity there as far as financial institutions and things of that nature. My team, the emphasis on my team is to put out secure or rank and score software products that the banks own. So it's basically secure software supply chain, and
Right.
we let them know what their probabilities are of being hacked or whatever the case is, right?
Right.
So there's an aspect around that that requires a lot of other stuff
Hmm.
associated with the security supply chain, and then um, another aspect of what I do is reverse engineering. So if you have malware, things of that nature, viruses, and all that other stuff, I break them down and reverse engineer them and see how they created them, and then provide bulletins and reports,
Wow.
to certain agencies and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
that's my background, my current, where I'm at right now. And I guess that's it, right, for now.
That's pretty cool. In fact, I'd like to start with picking your brain a little bit about that. You work in the kind of the IT software divisions. What are your take on this current artificial intelligence push? You talk about banks that you're helping out with software, and where I'm going down rabbit holes about data centers. That's going to be kind of like I compare it like the Walmart to small business, where everything's going to be located in this cloud structure that artificial intelligence is going to feed. What's your take on that?
So me personally, the growth is going to benefit a lot of people. The scare tactic on the data centers. Now, I'll tell you, when I first got out of the military, I worked for Sun Microsystems, and I started out, developing stuff in C programming language, and then I transitioned into a professional services engineer. So we would build Oracle 11i infrastructures with storage and enterprise class servers, Sun enterprise class servers, and we built pretty much data centers from scratch. The AI stuff is just now the buzzword, but it has been around for quite some time. It went from machine learning, and then like so you prior, like there's a lot of aspects to AI, right? So
Right.
what they did was just commercialize it and make it more mainstream because it's been around for a while. Just like many years ago when you would run your credit card and stuff, and then if you had a charge that wasn't common to your spending pattern, you immediately got an alert. That's AI,
Okay.
right?
Sure.
They're just making it mainstream now. I don't see any damage or anything in the environment or making data centers because they're not really intrusive. And cloud computing is actually where you want to go, and it's going to create a lot of opportunities for the community. And I actually help kids in high schools in a mentor program where we tell them how to get into cloud computing, be it entry level assist operator, a cloud administrator, security administrator, a big data administrator, data scientist. There's endless opportunities. You don't
Okay.
require a college degree to get into that. It's just some mentoring, a learning path, and the vendors usually provide the training free online.
Okay.
So if you know how to get to it, if you have children or you have kids that are in high school, that's a good segue into the IT field.
Okay.
Because right now there's a lot of people like the universities can't really keep up. It changes so rapidly and frequently. Like the vendors, like for instance, I do a lot of stuff on Amazon Web Services, AWS, and Azure, which is Microsoft's product. And the evolution of that has changed significantly in the past 2 or 3 years, right? So 3 years in IT is like a millennium.
Right.
I'm telling you, it's like it
Sure.
just so these products that are coming out, I wouldn't be scared. Like there's a lot of stuff that they say, AI helps me immensely in my daily jobs because you can tell by the signature of a particular software product that you're working with, and
Right.
then you can see who the threat actors are, and you immediately get a response back from an AI model, right? I'm not talking about Chat GPT or anything like that, but there's also frameworks that for compliance reasons and things of that nature that we what do you call it that we use, and it gives us accurate
Right.
results like that would normally take us days. We get it in minutes.
Okay. Well, that's certainly a more positive outlook than what I'm seeing, and I'm doing a lot of research into them. So I certainly hope that you're right. I hope that this technology of the future is going to be something more positive, and but to me, it's to be determined. These it's kind of scary. They admit we're going into the technological revolution. That's going to be the next, like the industrial. So it's going to be a big step into sort of an unknown future. So,
Yeah, they said the same thing with the Y2K stuff.
well, they
Remember that?
did. You're right. They did. There's a lot of. In fact, I had a conversation about that just the other day. So it's kind of a coin toss at this moment, at this point. But we're going to be breaking down a lot of that in the next few months as we see these sort of data centers come into our regions. Because I'm not going to lie, it's scary to me. I don't.
Yeah, we have to embrace the opportunity, and we got to learn. We got to learn how to leverage the technology and not be afraid of it. So if
Well,
you leverage it and you can
yeah.
use it for your benefit, then there's no need to fear. But the fear is being left behind, right? And then going out to pasture by not using the new technology.
I
So it's just like when
suppose.
we had a flip phone, we went to a smartphone, right? We went to a regular TV. Now we got smart TVs. There's a number of things. So it's been around a while.
Well,
The
I do.
problem is,
I do agree with you, and I know I see exactly what you're saying. But I've always been a little weary of it's not the technology itself; it's who controls that technology and how they use it. That's kind of what is that's what makes me kind of think twice about it. So
yeah, there's a lot of guardrails around sensitive stuff. I just
yeah,
want to mention that.
you sure?
There's a ton of guardrails. So what you get from Chat GPT and stuff like that, that's basic. You're getting what's called consumable, data, which those models continually are trained when you send data and update data and ask for things. Then it actually trains to it actually trains to what you're normally using it for. Um, but there's a lot of there's a lot of other things around sensitive information that that have guardrails and stuff like that. So and there's a lot of ethical stuff that's baked into that where you just can't go and nefariously conduct. I mean, you can write things, things of that nature. You can write, but as far as destroying and controlling systems, they have guardrails around that.
Right. I certainly hope so, man. So let's talk about your conservatism. We talked about this the other day on the phone. You've been pretty much a conservative all your life, right? And you've kind of carried those sort of ethos with you, and you carry them into your daily work, right?
That's right. So I just want to say I'm not a Democrat convert. I have been a Republican
Right.
since day one. I joined the military. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. I joined the military at 18 as soon as I graduated high school. I remember the days of watching, the gas lines, the hostages in Iran, all that craziness, right?
Right.
And so what I found is that the Democrats came around. They always came around. I grew up in a predominantly poor area, and it became poor. And I'll tell you how it became poor was because what they did. It was a city along the Hudson River called Red Hook. It's a little town in Brooklyn. And along in Red Hook, I don't know if you remember, like in the 70s and in the 80s, they what do you call it? It was a big textile hub. Like when they made T-shirts, they made all kinds of things there,
Like
and it
denim
had the
factories.
undercollar made in USA. Right.
Okay.
New York was a big fashion area, and along the Hudson River, there were a number of factories. There were a number of different things there because they had easy access to the river, and they would go and sell the products nationwide, worldwide. Right.
Right.
So what happened? The globalists came in and they said, "Hey, these things are polluting. These factories are polluting our atmosphere. They're doing this, they're doing that." Right. So what ended up happening is they closed all those factories without any type of plan to retrain. So see, back in the day, we had a strong community. While everybody was working in those factories, my dad was, and then it was, and you throw the mix in there from the like what the civil rights movement was going on. We didn't make a whole lot of money or anything, but the money circulated within the community, right? So if you needed a doctor, if you needed a lawyer, whatever it was, a mechanic,
Right.
if you were short on groceries, you would go to the corner store guy. He'll
Right.
front you groceries till payday, right? So what they did is they closed all those they closed all those factories and didn't have any kind of retraining. They did the same thing in Pittsburgh. They did the same thing in Youngstown, Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, Detroit, right? Why? Because the blue collar person had power because
Right.
we had community, right?
Right.
What they
Strength in
did was
numbers.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Strength in numbers. The community. Everybody was close knit. Everything was small. Absolutely.
Right. And you didn't need a lot of money because the money circulated within the community,
Right.
right? And everybody had respect for each other, everybody had admiration for each other. And then what would end up happening is, when a kid graduated high school, if the dad was a blue collar mechanic or an air conditioning technician or something, or carpenter, he brought his kids into the business,
Right.
right? And then it continued on from there, right? Okay, so then the globalists came along and they said, "Hey, climate change is polluting the atmosphere, all this other kind of stuff. It's wreaking havoc in our communities." So anyway, they closed all those factories, and what was left was death, poverty, and destruction,
Right.
right? So we were part of that. We felt the pain on that. So what ends up happening is like, we have to get into the communities because conservatism is a strong word. My version of conservatism is faith, family, freedom, strong community, and then culture, whatever that culture is, right?
Right. Right.
A lot of people come from everywhere. This is a melting pot, and growing up in Brooklyn, New York, in Red Hook, we had Polish with us, we had Dominican, we had Puerto Rican, we had Black, we had everybody,
That's
right?
right.
And they all worked in those factories. And when we played with those kids, we didn't care. We were kids. And the beauty of having that community was that if one of those other kids' mom seen you screwing up or something, or whoever was the first one to see us get in trouble, they had the authority to beat us up.
Sure.
Then when you
Right.
got home, you got a butt whooping from your parents
That's
as
right.
well,
That's
right?
right.
So we saw that, and then as the work dried up, then those same people were still in those communities. Only now they have to revert to other things to make money.
Yeah.
Because they got to feed their family. So remember, everything has a cause and everything has an effect,
Sure.
right?
I
So
know
the cause here
exactly.
was that they closed everything there.
Hmm.
They didn't have a plan.
Right.
And then, so then what ends up happening is along came the Democrats. And they
Right.
said, hey, you should not be living like this. We're going to give you a check and we're going to make sure that you have this, that, and the other. So then what happens is it created it filled a vacuum with dependency.
Right.
So we went from a community of minorities, right, that own stuff, ownership instead of dependency, to a dependent class,
Hmm.
right?
Socialism.
So what happens is we all know what that does, right? Because when you're what do you call it, in the national parks or even in any park, they tell you don't feed the wildlife, because if
Right.
you feed the
Yeah.
wildlife, they can't
They
hunt for
become
themselves.
dependent on the food. Yeah, absolutely.
Right, exactly. So that's where we are right now, right?
Absolutely. So they moved in socialism, basically. They wanted to socialize everything.
Right. They wanted to socialize everything. So here's a big gripe that I have with the Republican Party.
Okay.
Now, I have been a Republican, again, I'm going to say this, since day one, right? And we have so much opportunity in these communities, right? But the problem is, we have 80% of what we have is in common, right? We agree on 80% of the stuff.
Hmm.
We agree on safe schools. We agree on owning something. We agree on leaving a legacy for our children. We want to, have safe communities, and we want to have opportunity,
Right.
right? Okay, so then there's the other 20%, right? Because what I've learned is there's three types of Republicans in this party here. You have the marble Republicans that like to be on that marble floor in the Capitol,
Right.
wearing their suits, going
Sure.
over there, doing that kind of stuff. You got the country club guys with the parted hair, the blazer,
Hmm.
the khaki pants, and
Right.
then and lots of hairspray, right? Those are the ones that look at me like, where do you come from? You don't belong in
Exactly.
this party, that kind of stuff. Then you got the ones like from middle Georgia on down, those guys are where the rubber meets the road.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna tell you, those guys right there, I had so much in common with them. I went down to Peach County they invited me to speak at Peach County, and I had so much in common with them. It was like, hey, you're my brother from the neighborhood. Because
Right.
they feel the pain, like they're down there, they
Sure.
understand what it is, they're working in those farms and stuff like that. And then, and a lot of the stuff that happens up here at the flagpole affects them,
Yes.
and they understand the need of building community. So basically, right after that meeting where I was with them, the next day they contact me, hey, send me that stuff that you said you were going to send me. I was like, whoa, this is kind of fast, man. They were like, yeah, but we're having a meeting tomorrow for
Hmm.
an action item so that we can get this stuff done, right? We potentially swung a Democrat who was there running for mayor. She was in the audience, and she
Hmm.
said, hey, what do you call it? My parents, or I mean, my grandmother was a Republican. I just want to know
Hmm.
what that is, right? What is it about?
Right.
So then she says, yeah, you explained it perfectly on what it is, right? Now I just want to say, you know, the formation of the Republican Party was solely to stop the spread of slavery to the
Slavery.
Western
That's
states,
right.
right? And to give opportunity. So after Reconstruction, right, blacks had opportunity. They were making a lot of money. They had all kinds of stuff. You know, they were flourishing. Along came Andrew Jackson. A number of other things, Jim Crow laws, all this other stuff,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then you fast forward into that, you go into COINTELPRO. I don't know if you're familiar with COINTELPRO.
A little
It
bit.
was an operation that J. Edgar Hoover executed to get rid of the black leadership.
Right. I've heard
That's
a
where
little
the
bit about
beginning
it.
of the end started, with the
Hmm.
leadership, right?
Right.
So we're under the assumption now that when we see black people, that they're going to vote for Democrats immediately.
Hmm.
That's not the case.
Right.
Black people uh, are conservative by nature, right?
Right.
What we see on TV and all this other craziness, right? That's a small percentage of black people. Just like we can't say that all black people are bad because we see an incident on that, right? But
Sure.
then what's kind of disheartening, and what makes it hard for me, and my argument is that when I try to bring people to the party who are minorities, they read these Facebook posts that say, well, hey, these animals beat up this white kid, or whatever the case is, that kind of stuff. So that doesn't make a good argument, right? Okay, am I against that? And I know it's wrong. Yes, but we have to find a better way to articulate this, because the same thing happens on the West Coast. Black people get beat up in Idaho,
Right.
Nebraska, and all these other things by those white supremacist groups, right? So
Yeah.
we have to take a stand and say all our problems, we have to either own them as Americans, right? Because the opioid problem, that was big in the '80s, and it wasn't a problem, and nobody raised the alarms or anything until it hit the white conservative community,
Right.
right? Now all of a sudden they
Sure.
made it a big problem.
And I would argue too a little bit on that. Part of the culture is sort of like this fifth generational warfare, right? When you, especially when you're trying to keep a community like down, and you promote all these things that creates a lifestyle that is something, especially the culture that we're living in, right? Like the thug life type culture. And then, of course, when you have minorities that want to come out, as conservatives or whatever, they get called names like Uncle Tom and different things. So it's a big culture war going on here where we're almost. It's like race is a great way to sell division, right? So it's like they want to keep these things constantly going to keep us divided down here. When really we have a lot of the same mindset. Would you agree?
Yeah, I gotta disagree with the Uncle Tom part.
Right.
When you go there with the right message,
Right.
they follow you. They don't care what color you are. They don't care what it is, right? And
Right.
I'm gonna say this, right? And I know it's gonna ruffle a few feathers to your audience.
Okay.
Is okay, so when you go into the community and you start talking religion to people, right?
Right.
They don't want to hear religion. I hate to
Okay.
say it, right? It's just like if I'm a Hindu and I go up to a Christian and I start talking to you about my Hindu values, are you going to be receptive to me?
Okay. Well,
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
I see what you're
And then
saying.
the left uses that, right?
Right.
The left says, hey, you see how judgmental they are, right? The
Right.
left, I'm going to tell you, right, how the left plays onto what we say when we get into those communities.
Okay.
Okay. So the left says, when you go in there with the religious stuff, the left says, see, they're being judgmental. They're judging you.
Mm-hmm.
And you shouldn't be judged and that kind of stuff, right? Okay.
Right.
Then when you go in there and you talk about taxes, then they say, hey, they're taking your benefits away from you. They're giving
Right.
tax breaks to the rich and they're taking the benefits away from you. Then
Sure.
when you go in there talking about abortion, they say they're trying to tell you what to do with your body,
Right.
right? And then the other thing is this: there's another part of this to the abortion stuff. It's like, okay, we're all pro-life, right? But then when the baby's here, and then when we ask the
Right.
conservatives to do outreach and help these parents, nobody shows up.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right, but it's also getting better. And about the comment that I was making, I feel like that Donald Trump becoming president, right? This new sort of formation of people, whether you want to call it the MAGA movement or the Patriot movement, I think that is sort of opened up that divide a little, right? It's made it to where it's not such a big deal for people to come together, and I think that we need to be embracing that more, right? I mean,
Yeah, the thing is this. We get into the community. We did a lot of work during the 24 election.
mhm,
We went in a lot of places. We did not use Trump 24. And you probably didn't hear anything about anything that we were doing because you have to operate in stealth because
mhm,
when you go public on what you're doing and all that other kind of stuff, the Democrats are watching you and they
right,
know exactly how to counter you,
right,
right? So we were operating in stealth. There was a lot of people, a lot of people on my side. Not I'm not going to say my side because to me, it's a grassroots movement. So grassroots does not have an organization. It doesn't have a hierarchy. It doesn't
right,
have an interview where you got to be accepted.
right,
It's just like, hey man, this is what has to get done. You take this region, I take that region.
mhm,
You take that, whatever, right? And we
right,
we we divided and conquered. We went out there. We had our plan. We went out to the different areas. We
mhm,
hit churches. We hit businesses. Myself, actually, and I'll give you a good example in the hood part of it was Derek Allen did a lot of work. I know you
mhm.
might, I don't know if you know, if you know
I know
Derek or
who
not.
he is, but I do not know him. But I've heard about him, through different
Yeah, okay.
sources.
He may seem polarizing to a lot of people, but I'm going to tell you this. He is one of my advocates. The guy works immensely in the community. He spreads conservatism into those communities. He's a
Okay,
soccer coach. He helps a lot of the troubled kids and keeps them off the streets and stuff like that.
right,
Right. And that those kids see him, they respect him, they go up to him, hey, Coach Allen, all kinds of other stuff, right? That's the stuff that we need because a lot of those kids don't have father figures,
Right.
right? And so what ends up happening is this. I'm going to tell you how the violence manifests,
Okay.
right? Okay, so you have a single mother raising a kid, a boy, right? Okay, so that boy gets his mother's emotions. So
Gotcha.
then when that kid is triggered and then you have the emotions mixed with testosterone, that's where you get the violence.
Right.
So when you got a two-parent home, the father goes in and he's the antithesis of that. He says, hey, instead of you fighting, you could walk away from that stuff. A man just walks away from that. So he gives the man balance. But what's happening now is that lack of mentorship in these communities,
Mm-hmm.
right? And lack of,
Absolutely.
male role models in these communities. So that's what we need, right? We have to come together and offer something like say, because I go in there, I give a lot of them, classes on IT,
Right.
how to get in. I talk to the parents. There's another lady who works with me here in Forsyth County. She's another strong community person. Stacy Writings and her husband James Writings. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you know them,
I've,
but
I've, I think I've talked to him before, but yeah, I know of them.
yeah, so Stacy and James, they are strong in the community. Then you got you got Sophia, Donna Gallagher over there in
Yes.
Cobb County doing their stuff.
Do
You
know
got
Donna
Suzanne
and
Haddad.
Sophia. Hmm.
Yeah, you got Suzanne Haddad doing stuff in Cherokee.
Love
Like
her.
these people,
Yes.
like all of these people here, they work. They want to
Yeah,
put
they're
in the
boots
work,
on the
right?
ground. Right.
Right, and then Ron Hooper and Lois and that group,
Yes. The
Hank,
MAGA Georgia.
we got it here. We got the people here that are putting in the work,
That's
right?
right.
The problem is that we don't have it on a program level,
Right. Right.
meaning like if we had support because we got all these splinter groups, right? And
Sure.
we all have our own resources and we're trying to build something, right? But if it came, just imagine if we had a plan from up top, like not telling us what to do, but at least in our local GOPs have something that goes out into these communities,
Yeah, I
right?
agree.
And we don't have that. It's always the same breakfast, the same meeting with the same recycled people and the
Right.
same messaging.
Gotcha. We
So who's going
definitely
to come
need
to that?
right. I think you're 100% right. We need more community outreach. We need to be talking to people, especially who don't look like us, who would probably be very interested in joining and getting involved. But like you said, they're not just going to come to the same breakfast and do the same thing. It has to be an outreach.
Yeah, so the outreach I use is okay. We get in, we talk to the pastors, we
Okay.
talk into the local communities. We find out who's shaking and moving,
Hmm.
and then the most powerful thing that we do is we say, "Hey, is there crime in this area? Do you have bad schools?" They say, "Yeah, all of the above."
Hmm.
Okay, so that's your fault. And they
Right.
say, "How is it our fault?" Because you have to get involved in your civics. You have
Mm.
to get involved, and you have to hold your elected officials accountable.
Right.
Okay, so let me ask this. So we teach the Constitution. We go around talking about faith, talking about the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, all this other kind of stuff. But who goes into the community and tells those people how to represent themselves and hold their elected officials accountable?
Right. That's right. Who does? I mean,
Nobody.
nobody. Right.
Right. So then again, there's a vacuum there with the Democrats, right? They come
Hmm.
behind us and they
Right.
say, oh, well,
And they're coming offering baskets full of free stuff, right? And
right,
the whole
exactly,
principle of
exactly.
is Republican Party is individualism and responsibility, that kind of thing.
Right, but when you go in and you talk to a parent, you talk and I do a ton of outreach in the elementary and the middle schools, right?
Okay,
Because they have the new parents,
gotcha.
right? So and those new parents have limited resources. So you go in there, you stock the food pantries in the Title One schools. A Title One school is free or reduced lunch, and
Right.
they're just like a tad below the poverty level,
Okay.
right? The majority. Okay, so you go in there, they have parent centers. You go in there, you stock the parent centers. Just show up with stuff. It doesn't take a lot of money. Just you could do clothing drives.
Hmm.
Most of the people in our community and our network, they take stuff to Goodwill. I drive around. I say, hey, just give me that. I'll take it. Right?
Right.
Consolidated. I'll have 30 bags in my garage, and then
Hmm.
I'll end up. What do you call it? I'll end up taking it to a Title One school.
Right.
They wash everything. The same thing with rice, all kinds of stuff.
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
Okay. So in return, those parents, they want to know who you are. The
Right.
principal says, hey, once you get that report built, okay, this is the person that's helping us out here, right? So then you start talking to them like you got their ear now, right? So you say, hey, do you believe in strong family? Yeah, yeah, yeah. We believe in strong family. Okay, like we got our family together. Okay, do you like safe communities? Yeah, are you a person of faith? Then they say, yeah. Okay, so where are you going with this? And they
Hmm.
say, okay, well, the party that I come from, that I represent, that's what we about. That's what we
Right.
are about. Those are our values. So I just leave it there, right? I just leave it at good education, right? Safe
Hmm.
communities, opportunity, ownership instead of dependency. Meaning, we want you to own something. You came to America
Right.
not to be dependent on something. You came
Exactly.
to America to own something.
To be,
And when you go
yeah.
into the black community, you say the same thing. Because how can in a lot of those areas, what's destroying the black communities is globalism. And
Hmm.
what they're doing is they're going into those black communities and then they're putting in a Walmart or whatever the case is. And then whatever small businesses are around that
Right.
or rented within the Walmart, then they're owned by others who don't live in that neighborhood.
Sure, sure. And I would argue that's the whole that's global. That's happening everywhere. I mean, everywhere is getting small businesses are getting demolished in this. I mean, look at what happened during COVID, for crying out loud. It's we're never recovering from that, you know.
Yeah, and
So
that was done by design. So you get into a community, right? You get
right.
into a community, and then when you put a Walmart there, so you take out the pharmacy, you take out the grocery
Hmm.
store,
The
you
gas
take out the tire
stations.
shop, the mechanic shop, the hardware store.
Hmm.
So all those businesses that would leave generational wealth and a
Right.
legacy are no longer.
Right. And that yeah, that's a huge epidemic going on. Absolutely. And like you said, it ties into globalism. So let me. I hear exactly what you're saying, right? And let's just do a little bit of focus on Georgia, right? Because it just seems to me like I'm biased and think we have a rhino problem. We have Republicans in name only, right? It shows through everything how we act, what we do, our legislation. What a it seems to me that we have a lot of a GOP issue that's not ready to grow like this or not willing to do that type of outreach. Is
Okay,
that
so I would say this. The marble floor Republicans, I agree with you. The country club Republicans, I agree with you because what's going on around them does not affect them
right?
because they have the resources. They could weather the storm.
Hmm.
But however, you go to the blue collar Republicans, like on the farms and stuff like that, and Midland, Georgia, South Georgia, whatever the case is, right?
Hmm.
They feel it. They understand this. They know what it is to get out there and do outreach,
Right.
right? And but what we have a problem with is that around here they're just like we continually vote for them. We keep putting these people in power, right?
Right.
To me, I'm not one that says I'm going to hold my nose and vote for somebody that I disagree with. I am not going to vote for them. I would just
Right.
leave that entry blank. And you
Yeah.
know why? Because they do not deserve my vote.
Right. Especially if
I
there's
will
no
not reward them
difference.
with my vote.
If there's no difference and it's sort of a uniparty vote, what is the difference, right?
Yeah. So the thing is this: is that we keep voting these people in, right? They're going to keep abusing us.
Right.
And you
Exactly.
saw the abuse at the convention,
That's right.
right? You saw what went on. You saw that buffoonery. Then you got the
Hmm.
new people that come on, and then they say, "Oh, well, it's not Josh's fault that you play politics, right? These are the new guys that are coming on board that drank the Kool-Aid, right? And
Hmm.
then that got indoctrinated by Turning Point,
Right.
And I do have a problem with Turning Point because one is they're not controlled by delegates,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
two is how can you partner with somebody without authorization from the delegates,
Hmm.
right? So they saying, okay, we're going out there, we're knocking doors. They had an app, and
Right.
it was on the phone, and people thought that hey, it's being helpful. What you were doing was validating their data.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, there's look. I'm not. I'm again. I have no reason to disagree with you. Turning Point is something that I'm looking into. I've heard good, bad about it, but again, like you said, it's obviously there's some things there that aren't really matching up very well, right? And it
No,
doesn't seem to
no, and
represent
not
the
only that,
grassroots.
Charlie Kirk can't go around, disparaging people and
Sure.
saying, DEI. I want to make sure when I get on the plane that he's got a square jaw and he's a white guy. You know, what kind of stuff is that? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's like DEI, like let's DEI for opportunity is they're not lowering the standards. What they're doing is they're providing resources for them to go to school so that they can learn and otherwise compete when they didn't have a chance before,
Sure.
right?
And I will add to this as far as Turning Point. So we have a sort of a complex situation here because Donald Trump is a paradox, right? And we had a lot of infighting in the Republican Party because, let's face it, a lot of Republicans, especially before this assassination attempt, did not want Donald Trump to become president again. And I do think that some of these higher institutions get a little bit of the blame whenever I think their number one goal is to try to keep things together like glue, right? Because let's face it, the Democrat Party are just built with people who will do whatever and stay in that lane, and they're just going to vote for the most asinine things. But the Republican Party, we're filled with people that are very independent, family oriented. We're not as congealed. So does that make sense? Like, obviously,
Yeah, it absolutely does. But here's the thing: is because it's always a power struggle.
yeah,
Like I know more than you. I know the
that's
Constitution
true.
more than you. I know this better than you. And that, see, I don't.
Yeah,
The other thing I notice about our party is that they're always worrying about what somebody else is doing and not worrying about what they need to do.
that's true.
Right.
That's
And
true.
and I say, hey, I can't get involved with what other people are doing.
Hmm.
I have my missions and I have my focus and I have whatever I need to do and I do it.
Right.
I don't sit there
Sure.
and criticize the next man for what they're doing,
Oh
whatever the
yeah.
case is,
Oh,
more power to
yeah.
them.
I agree with you 100%. I'm out here doing what I'm going to do, and I'm going to continue to do that whether people like it or not, right? And if it falls by the wayside, we'll do something else. But I'm not going to be controlled by anybody. We're
Right,
always
right. And
looking for
that's
the
the thing,
truth.
and then the thing is, right, to have anything successful, you have to be able to communicate and mobilize,
Yeah, that's
right?
true. We lack
So
that.
here's the thing. Um, I noticed, like, my observations, right? I stay quiet around a lot of environments, a lot of things. I'm actually 2 or 3 steps ahead of people,
Okay.
and I get mistaken for being a fool, that kind of stuff. But I'll tell you this: I can see 2 or 3 steps ahead of them,
Okay.
and as a special forces soldier, being in other countries, living in 30 countries, we always learned one thing, which was pace. Primary plan,
Mm-hmm.
alternate plan, contingency plan, and emergency plan.
Gotcha.
Right. What I see with our party is there's really not a whole lot of planning. It's more like shooting from the hip and say, hey, they're gonna keep doing the same stuff that doesn't work over and over and over and keep trying, and then they try to overwhelm with numbers. So if something's not working, take a step back, evaluate, and see what you need to change.
Right.
Right. So the other thing is this: I call it like the T-ball team. So when election integrity comes up, everybody wants to do election integrity, right? When something else comes up, everybody wants to go there and do that, right? The way you have to form a task force is you got to say, hey, if Voter GA and David Cross and those guys are doing that, let them do it,
Right.
right?
I
If you
understand.
got another community, people that are doing stuff in the community, let them do that.
Hmm.
And we got to do something that's called a task organization, meaning list all these tasks, come together as a people. It doesn't matter what group you are, right? Just
Right.
say, okay, if I'm in this group, then you guys be responsible for that and take it over, own it,
Right. That
make
way,
sure you get it done properly.
everybody's not focused on 15 different things. You have this, if you, cause sort of like we thought, a congealed organization of people who are focusing on certain things, and it's all coming together, right?
Exactly. Right.
Okay.
So the thing is, like, you can, when you're splintered like that, right? So, you go back to Sun Tzu's philosophy where he says, if you know yourself, right, and you know the enemy,
Hmm.
you're going to win 1,000 battles.
That's right.
If you know yourself and you don't know your enemy, for every battle you lose, you're going to lose 5 battles,
Right.
right? If
Hmm.
you don't know yourself and you don't know the enemy, you're going to be in chaos.
Right. Yeah. That's very true. Wow.
So we have to like start looking, strategically, right? You got
Right.
to just, because when we were going around into the communities, they were saying, who are the Republicans? And then when you tell them, they say, yeah, yeah, we agree with all that stuff. And then when you tell them that they are conservative, then they say, okay, where are the Republicans? Where are
Right.
they? Tell them to
Now,
come and talk to us. But
yeah.
the local chairs were like, oh, we're not going to support those programs. We're not going to support going into the community and
Hmm.
bringing candidates there and stuff like that.
Right. Wow. Yeah, I think you said it right, and I want to go back another. As far as I've learned this myself, there is no more holding my nose. I think our votes are way too important. Obviously, we understand that we've got a fraudulent election system, but again, I'm not going to compromise my values or my vote anymore just to hold a line, and that's we've got to get out of that. And I think we have a grassroots in this state, one of the most powerful that I've ever seen. that we can leverage our votes in order to bring some of these people off the marble, out of these country clubs, and listen to us, come down to our level, the peasant level. That's what I believe.
Absolutely.
So,
And it's working. As I mentioned earlier, I have a really good ally with Stacy Ridings, and
mhm.
she's ruffled a lot of feathers. But I'm gonna tell you this: like, she's the type that when I ask her, hey, let's do a drive for
Mhm.
something, she says, how much do you need? When do you need it? And where do you need it?
Right. That's
The
good.
same thing with a lot of other folks that are there. And even Charles. Charles Stoker.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
Charles
so
Stoker.
I call him Charles Stowe. So
He's
Charles Stowe is, yeah,
eh,
he gets involved as well, and
yeah.
he's calling around, he's setting up resources for us, he's getting us connected with people,
That's what he
you know,
does.
that's
Yeah.
what he does, that's what he's good at, and the thing is this is that I don't have any enemies, right? I just have people who don't agree with me, and that's fine, right? We could
Mhm.
always agree to disagree respectfully. I don't go around. I don't need to disparage anybody. I don't need to, like I said, I don't worry about what's going on in these places, right? Any GOP that needs my help, I will go there and help them. And
Gotcha.
I have a pretty good success rate. When I went down to Peach, that was like one of the first GOPs that I met that I said, wow, this is totally blue collar. Like,
Hmm.
these guys get it, because they were like, hey, they were already starting to formulate their plans. They said, this is how we get into here. We got this other stuff down the street. We're going to hold this event, that event. So I was like, wow. And then they had, so among those guys were the heavy hitters for the election integrity stuff.
Right.
Like Phil Cersei,
Oh yeah,
Sam, Colleen,
Sam.
all those guys,
Hmm.
they were there. I was like, wow, I seen these guys like, a lot of stuff that they were doing. And it was an honor to meet those
Yeah,
people,
those guys
because
are rock star legends, man.
yeah, man, these guys were like, so you don't hear much about these guys up here other
Hmm.
than when they're
Well,
in,
I want to point that out because I've been criticized in my conservative fantasy land for somebody like Hank Sullivan or getting together with the crazy election people, and I'm telling you what. It's been the best thing I've ever done is to look outside of, take the horse blinders off and meet people like you and Sam and Field and see what kind of passion and drive these people have, because they're not out here doing this stuff because they're trying to make a name. They are trying to fix a broken system that everybody knows is broken. A lot of people will just shrug it off and pretend like it's not broken because they don't want their little aura to be upset. They just want everything hunky dory. But man, if we're not paying attention to the things that you're doing down in your communities, regardless whether my community is this conservative fantasy land, we're going to lose everything if we're not supporting each other around this state.
absolutely. And then you mentioned Hank, right?
Yes,
Hank's a good mentor to me.
Hank is.
He does a lot of good stuff.
Yeah,
And he's not well liked, right? But he doesn't need anything from anybody
no,
in order to be liked or accepted. So he doesn't care.
right.
It's one of those things where he's
He
like,
calls
hey, I'm gonna
balls and
focus.
strikes.
Yeah, I'm laser focused on fixing things and I'm going to fix them. The same thing with David Cross. The same thing with a lot of these people, right? The
Right.
thing is that, how do we, this is it, right? Like we have to get people into, by the time we get to state convention, it's too late.
That's
We got to
true.
get them onto the precinct stuff,
Hmm.
like get them to, get them into the precinct stuff, the precinct strategy, get
Right.
them going there, go to the county one, and get and educate them, like build our army, build our task force,
Right.
and get these people voted out of there, right?
Hmm.
Because you see the same recycles, like
Yeah.
they were vice chair this time, now they're second vice chair, now they're secretary, now they're this, now they're that. Do you honestly think something's going to change? And then what
No.
they do is they bully people
Kind of like
into, hey,
Sophia.
this is what you need to do. What's that?
Kind of like Sophia.
Yeah,
That was the
exactly.
crazyest
Well,
thing
hey,
I've ever seen.
she's an ally of mine, and regardless of what they're, this is what I don't understand, right? Let's just say that worst case scenario that her granddad was involved with something like that. What does
Sure.
she have to do with that? She was born and raised
Exactly.
here, right?
I
It's
read the
just the
report.
same thing. No, but here's the same thing, right? The Frost family, right?
Right.
They're saying, oh, the kids are not responsible, or the rest of the family's not responsible. Come on, man.
You are exactly. How on earth can we hang somebody out to dry based on family members or some sort of past revelations, but the people that are the most well respected and revered are literally ripping everybody off, yet people will stand up and
And still
defend
defend
these
them.
people. It makes no sense to me, and I don't understand. Maybe it's because of pride, or they don't want to be wrong, or what. But I mean, if you don't think that that's not being seen, come on. I don't have to defend anybody. All right, our actions should be our own defense in everything that we do, and it's beyond me that we crucify
Yeah,
people that
just
are trying
remember
to
this,
grow the
right?
party.
When somebody does something to you and deceives you, a snake sheds his skin and be a bigger snake,
Yeah,
right? And their habits form their personality.
yeah,
Their habits form their character,
yeah.
right? So that's something that's embedded in them. They're not going to change. They're going to come and play games with you. They're going to play you. And to me, I just don't associate with people like that.
Yeah.
I just say, hey, man, that's it. You screwed me over. I'm not messing with you anymore.
Right. Yeah, I certainly hear you. So I want to cover one more thing before we end up going to comments here, and I'm just double checking real quick because sometimes people send me the super chats, and I have not gotten them hooked up yet. So I want to make sure that I'm not missing any comments. So if you have sent me anything like a super chat, please let me know. I don't see any. So your Substack, one thing I'd like to cover with you is your last Substack, the most recent one that you've written, called "Man in the Mirror."
Okay.
I think it's a great read, and it's a very good reflection on where we're at today. And I just wanted you to share a little bit of perspective because it ties into where we're at in Georgia and kind of everything we've talked about.
Yeah. So what we're doing, right? We gotta face ourselves, right? We gotta say, hey, am I doing the right thing? Right. What I learned as a Green Beret was you never put yourself in a compromising position.
Right.
So if you know something's wrong, even if you stand alone, you have to stand. Right. People go around and they do things. For whatever reason, again, I don't have any enemies. I'm not disparaging anybody. I don't go after anybody. I don't do any of that stuff. Right. If I have a disagreement with them, I just don't work with them anymore.
Right.
Right. That's fine. I can build bridges. I have built bridges. I got a lot of people in the community. That's all I care about. I don't really care about the politics stuff because it doesn't pay me. I don't have any insecurities around having people accept me. I don't care about that.
Gotcha.
The way I look at it, if I served in the top 1% in the world's military for special forces, got selected, made it through the qualification course, and all of the missions I conducted, I don't have to be insecure about anything.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
it's just like these other guys that go around with their suits and, like look down at me and tell me, that think that I'm stupid and that kind of stuff. Right. It's just like, go ahead, man, keep it moving. Cause, you and I have nothing in common. Yeah. You may have grown up with resources, but yeah, let's go into the battlefield. Right. And see where you are. And I'll tell you this, they're the ones that are putting us into the Hunger Games.
Right.
Did you ever see that movie, The Hunger Games?
Yes.
Where people are fighting each other and then they're over there from the top view looking down at everybody. That's where we are right now.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's exactly where we are right now. And, and the thing is that we got to come together as a community and we have to say, hey, you know what? Put all this stuff out. Like, put all your biases aside and let's stick to what we have in common. And then if we meet people and and you actually build rapport with people, they actually tell you, hey, come by, and you can, a lot of the Indian community in Forsyth County, I know them very well, right? Many years or a few years back, nobody ever spoke to those Indians, right? But they're good people. They what do you call it? They work hard. They're living the American dream, that kind of stuff, right? But then, I've heard comments from some of the conservatives like, oh, the Indians are moving in on everything, like they're taking us out of here and, and all this other kind of stuff, right? When that kind of noise comes out, then, it kills our movement because then they go to the Democrats, and this is a voting block that it's low hanging fruit that we could just pick.
Right.
And we're not doing the right thing by it.
Sure. I think we can definitely improve. We need to do some soul searching for sure. And, you're 100% right. So, all right, Angel, we're going to move to comments. And, so we'll start right here. First comment is Charles Stoker, who says it was froze. He said it was froze in the beginning. Charles, that's your fault. I have told you need to get Wi-Fi and you'll have to suffer with the rest of us, but he won't do it. He's a stubborn old man. So
he's still on dial-up.
he said he won't get Wi-Fi. He lives up on the mountain. I'm like, I can't help it if the shows are frozen. All right, you got to suffer through the Wi-Fi with us like everybody else, but he won't do it. So, Lisa Adams says hello, hello to you. Lisa Brown, Lisa Pierce is with us. Thank yous. Hey everyone, Lisa Pierce down in South Georgia, great person. Annabelle Bronco, thank you for being with us. She says, I believe when it's end times, the devil will use it, but I agree we need to know what's going on and be in the lead so it doesn't get in the wrong hands. And I think she's talking about this artificial intelligence and data centers. I think that's a big thing. And honestly, Angel, I like it's a positive outlook that you have, and one that I think we're all going to be trying to understand, because the problem is our main questions we have about it are not being answered. So we're going to
Yeah, I'm
have
in the
to.
industry, so I have a daily exposure to it.
Got you.
And
I
so
got you.
I can say that, if you learn it and embrace it, you'll love it.
Well, I mean, I certainly can embrace AI, but again, it's in the beholder, and we just got to make sure that it is designed right, correct? I mean, obviously, but Smatterchu Anthony, good to see you, sir. Let's see. Charles says Angel Rosario is the real grassroots. I'll agree with that. And he says Angel would be the oddest governor of Georgia. He is all in for sovereign citizens. I don't know if he meant oddest. He might have misspelled that. So
Yeah, you would never get me running for anything, especially as a Republican.
I hear you. Sharon Holland, as always, thank you for watching. Real Viking dude, what's up, man? He said I was here heading to Rumble so I can dive out and still listen on my phone. X dumps the show. So yeah, War Room has been talking a lot. Antonio's been telling me that X has been dumping the show. I think they're going through some technical stuff because a lot of people's been griping. But if that dropped out on X, we'll get it back up there. Trish Ann Hay, good to have you. She says 100% right. I am no longer going to vote for a person who is an evil person, no matter what party is by their name. Again, I have to agree. We're not holding our nose anymore in voting. So that's just all there is to it. Let's see. War Room Georgia says, good to have you tonight. Says probably not pride, but they are turning a blind eye to corruption for their own quest for power. So I think I could agree with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that in a nutshell. Yeah, that's it.
Absolutely. And let's see. TYGT says your studio looks very well lit. Nice work. Thank you. I got just a mashup of lights everywhere. Hang on one second, Ann. I'm going to mute us for just 1 second. All right, that's my dad leaving, y'all. Okay. Mike Pons, good to have you tonight, Mike. It says the most important talent in Georgia GOP, Angel Rosario. Why does the Georgia GOP ignore this man? Are you being ignored?
Oh, I've been ignored, man. Been ignored, tarred and feathered, all kinds of different things, man. But that doesn't bother me. Like I said, I don't need anything from them.
Right.
I'm not trying to get a political power. I'm not trying to. I don't need anything. I don't need money from them. When I go and speak, I speak for free, and I drive there on my own dime. I don't ask anybody for anything.
Wow. Sounds a lot like me, man. And I can promise you, they might be ignoring you on the surface, but they are watching. So they are watching. War Room Georgia says expanding and bringing people in with conservative values brings in more accountability to the establishment, which they do not want.
That's key right there.
It's a nail on the
key.
head.
That's why they stifle us.
Absolutely. And wow, we've got Ron Hooper from MAGA Georgia in the house tonight. Thank you, Ron. He says, great interview with Angel. I think this has been well. What do you guys think? We should bring him back. So, absolutely. And War Room says...
Ron's group is doing some good stuff up there in North Georgia.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with him today in Lois. And, they want to get into the community, and they know the importance of getting into the community.
Right.
And they have links into their community, but they openly admit it. They say we don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's fine, because here I am. I'm going to go there, and they're going to have that area. We're going to cover that area. And Lois has attended. One of I give a free seminar, 3 hours, right? Like, and then what it covers is how to approach people. So what we do is we study to we research buying cars, we research buying homes, but we don't research people.
Right.
Right. So when we get immigrants who come in here, like say they're from India, right? Okay, so I'll give you an example. Like most people think that all Indians are Hindus.
Right. Okay. Okay.
And that is not true because there's a big Muslim community within the Hindus.
Hmm.
I mean, within the Indian community. A lot of Indians from Hyderabad, right? And then if you know their history, what the migration pattern was, and and how they went back and forth, back in ancient times, and shared knowledge, then you would understand, and you can have a conversation with them, right? So I'll go real quick into something, and people have heard me say this before. The saying, "It's worth its weight in gold," comes from all the scholars, right? So the Greeks and all these different people, Africa and Asia was one landmass at the time before the Suez Canal and all of that. So they would do these migrations. So whoever had knowledge and spoke the different languages from those countries and made a manuscript of what knowledge was from whatever country, whatever that manuscript weighed, they paid you in gold. So that's where they say it's worth its weight in
Weight
gold,
in
right?
gold.
So it has a good connotation behind it. And
Gotcha.
so a lot of people, when you understand that and you see the migration patterns and how these things came about, then you can understand people a lot better. Just like if you see an Indian or you see whatever the case is, this is a good one. Like you could go to a World Atlas and then you could see the origins of a person's flag, just the origins of their flag. Brazil, India. So India, the colors are for the red is from the saffron that they grow there. The green part of it is the abundance of their forests and stuff like that. And then the orange is that it shines bright on the country.
Right.
I mean the yellow, the sunlight thing.
Gotcha.
So then it's like when you go there and you know what's going on, and then like with my neighbors, I understand them because and a lot of the Indians who live in Forsyth County, because I researched them, and I knew what their Hindu holidays were, and Diwali and all that other stuff, and I knew that a good custom is they like to eat sweets, right? So I went to the bakery, I bought some sweets, went over there, knocked on the door, hey, happy Diwali. As I was walking away, they said, hey, come in and have something, have some tea with us or something. And I
Right.
started talking to them, and it's like, hey, this is what we got going on, and then
Right.
you ask them what they do, that kind of stuff, and then you set up other meetings with them. The only flaw that I see with that is that the Indians have 5 or 6 events a week. And
Wow.
so if you get invited to 5 or 6 events a week, then it becomes overwhelming. And it's like, hey, I'm not ignoring you. I just can't come to these many meetings, man. I can't come to these many gatherings.
I
You
got
know,
you.
but they're a tight knit community and they're conservative and and they're just thirsty for the message. We got to go there and give them the message and the
Right.
message of ownership, safe schools, safe communities, ownership instead of dependency,
That's
a
right.
legacy. That should be our message.
Yeah,
We are
well,
the party of ownership.
and I'll just go out on a limb and say, look, conservatism is not the Republican Party is exactly what it is, a party. Conservatism is who you are, your culture, right? So
It's
I
principle.
think it's principle. We're going to continue to focus on conservatism before anything, and with or without the Republican Party, right? I mean, that's all there is to it. And we'll build our own army of conservatism. And trust me, I mean, if these people think they can keep playing this political game as the Great Awakening is happening, well, they're not going to get these votes from these people. So, plain and
Let me
simple.
just mention this. Let me
Sure.
just mention this.
Sure.
Going into a foreign country, training freedom fighters to overthrow their government is what I'm specialized in. What we got going on here is child's play. And I'm going to tell you this. If we organize and we mobilize, they're gone.
Yeah.
I'm telling you this. Like, just mark my words that you have this recorded right now.
Yeah.
That if we mobilize and communicate and organize, they're done.
You're right. It's
The problem is that we
300
have a lot of
running
little
3 million.
pockets. Yeah, well, the problem is we have a lot of little pockets of people who want to be like the little puppy dog that want to get pat right here, and a pat on the head, good boy, and do
Right.
this and do that and do as I say, and all this other stuff. And what they fail to understand is that they work for us. We don't work for them.
Yeah. Well, it's
That's
just
what they
like
fail to understand.
that's what my gripe about the GOP was all this election integrity, right? Well, if every GOP and you had, how many people, 10,000 people descend on that Capitol at the same time and say, hey, we're tired of Dominion, do you think that they would ignore us? But we have the
Exactly.
same groups of people going every time, and then we've got the pretenders, the people that are like, oh, yeah, the election is rigged, and they stay home, and they don't get involved, and then when the rubber meets the road, they want to call everybody else crazy. You
Yeah,
see?
and then those are the lazy ones, like that just go out there and they count on the local party, and this is why I was kind of upset at the, well, not upset. I was more than upset. I was livid when they got up there. And it's not a matter of David Cross winning or losing.
Right.
It's the way they went about the game, right? And I'm going
Yeah.
to tell you this, like, they got up there, and if you're a delegate that just, I invited four people I invited, and they were just bystanders, and I paid their way to get up there.
Wow.
And when they saw that, they said, "Hey, I don't think we want to be a part of this, man."
Oh yeah.
When
Yeah.
they saw the bickering and the arguing and stuff, these are people who have never attended anything, and they saw that and they said, "Wow, man, this is
No,
like."
they don't want to get involved. Yeah, absolutely. They
Yeah,
look at
yeah,
that
exactly.
fiasco and they're like, "My God, if this is the way it's going to be," and yeah, oh, don't get me started on that. You're absolutely right. So, all right, I'm going to do the last couple comments. Ron Hooper says, check out our video on MAGA Georgia Facebook fundraiser for Voted Georgia. Yeah, we will get that out there, Ron. And just another thing about MAGA Georgia, and I brag on this group, but I've been to a lot of groups. I've been asked to speak a few times, and it's a little bit of ways away for me. But when I went there for the first time, I never felt more welcome by a group of people that seemed to be on the same page, and everybody was just there, and nobody was mad at each other, and they asked good questions. It was a great group. You'll love going up there or over there. So,
Yeah, I've been there a few times.
oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I've been to a few of their events.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, going back to, when you have new delegates, right? Like, you have delegates that have been around that never been to the county committee.
Right.
I mean, they never went to the county caucus. They never went to the county convention, district. And then they get to state. For some reason, they get to state, right? Notice how all those people there were siding with Josh and all this other kind of stuff. And they were like, oh, and read the convention, go into that group, that Facebook group, and see all the people defending Josh and all that. Like, oh, he's not responsible for the Frost family. Well, wait a minute.
Well, he's
You
kind of
got
the
them all
chair.
on these committees, right? And I thought they got rid of Brian Pritchard for something far less.
Yeah, well, that's
Right?
another one of those. Yeah, well, defending over here, but calling the pot, the kettle black, all that. Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
Well, there's a term for that in the military that we called it, and it was called protecting the tab, right? So when you go to special forces training, the instructors there, they've been through it. They come from the teams, and then they got to do instructor duty, right? Okay, so every now and then you get a bad team member
Right.
that he was a bad operator. So let me just take a step back.
Okay.
In special forces, if you are a bad operator, if you're what you call a blue falcon, where you screw your buddies over and stuff like that, they will kick you off a team. But then what they'll do is, instead of getting rid of you, what they'll do is shift you around to all these different places so that we don't air our dirty laundry, and said that we train somebody like that.
Right.
That somebody like that is among our ranks, right? So then you get that guy. He ends up in the school as an instructor, and then he's protecting the tab. Like, he says, "I got it," so he makes it impossible for anybody else to get it.
Right.
And you have to kiss his ring because he's got his insecurities because he's been bounced around from every team.
Right.
So what we have here is tab protectors, and they say, "Oh, well, if I get in here, if these other people come along, I'm going to lose my power, and I'm not going to have this connection and all this and that." And look at them; it's all about power.
Yeah.
And with them, that's a gang of insecure people. That's it. That's the bottom line.
I
'Cause if
believe-
you got to go around and be accepted by a group,
Right.
then you got some insecurities.
I can't disagree with you. And Josh Pacuna has an open invitation on the show anytime he wants to come on and just talk, just come down to the grassroots talk. Open invitation.
Well, let me just tell you this. Since you mentioned Josh McCoon, right? He promised 3 times that he was going to listen to Derek Allen. 3 times. He did it in the convention in Columbus. He said, "Hey, I'm going to meet with you, blah, blah, blah. We're going to get into the community, this, that, and the other." Then there was a debate in Cobb County with Cross and what do you call it, and McCoon.
Okay.
And Cross, I'm going to tell you, I like David Cross because he's direct, he's straightforward. He's a no BS kind of guy, but he listens, and he's like, "Hey, man, if you got an action plan, let's do it." Right?
That's true.
That kind of stuff. But anyway, Josh told Derek, "Hey, I know, when we were there at that debate in Cobb County, he said, hey, and I was standing right next to Derek. He said, hey, I know you don't want to hear this, but contact me next week," or whatever the case is. So it went 2 weeks. Derek contacted him, and then he said, okay, let's meet after the convention, right? Okay, so then the convention was over, and then he made an appointment with Derek. Derek showed up at the GOP in Buckhead from his house in Snellville. He showed up over there, and Josh told him that he couldn't see him or meet with him.
Man. Well, you know, maybe, hopefully somebody that's watching this might trigger Josh and Derek to get together. Let's hope so. That's all we want.
Well, honestly, I don't think that relationship is going to be salvageable.
Yeah.
Because Derek wears his emotions on his sleeves.
Right.
Like, like I told you, he gets in. He's a soccer coach.
Right.
He helps these kids. And the thing is, he's about action, right? He wants to get action done. For whatever reason, I know people don't get along with him and stuff like that, but I can't say anything bad otherwise, right? With anybody, like
Right.
anybody who's around, because
Yeah.
if they're helping and they're doing grassroots stuff,
Sure.
and they have that charter, then hey, man, I don't care if you're black, white, or whatever the case is, right?
Sure.
My thing is, what qualifies you to be my friend is you just have to be a human, right? And you have to be a human with red blood. And then you're my friend, right? Until you screw me over, then I don't do anything with you anymore.
That's right.
And then, that goes back to another thing, right? In the military, we didn't have any of that stuff. Like, and when we were in other lands and we were working with other armies and fighting alongside other armies and task forces, notice this on uniforms, you saw A-PAS, A-NEG,
yes.
O-PAS,
Blood types.
O-NEG, A-B-PAS, right? And you saw the black guy with A-PAS, you saw the white guy with A-PAS, you saw whatever, it was all mixed. That's who I was looking for, because I'm A positive. So I was like, okay, if I get blown up out here, you guys are going to be the first ones I'm looking for, because you're going to give me blood and you're going to save my life, and vice versa.
Yeah. Got you. Yeah, that's a good point, man. All right. So let's see. Richard Schroeder, good to have you tonight with us. It says, let's see. Says that TYGT says always becomes a Wednesday night Georgia GOP rigged convention emotional support group. I need it. I love it. I think it's going to be a while before anybody actually gets over this. But again, if we can learn anything from this, it's how not to do things and how to meet on a level somewhere, right? Trish Ann Hayes says, yes, I was involved and I want to wash my hands of the GOP. If I was new, I would have left and never came back. I know a lot of people feel like that.
Okay, so let me ask this.
Yes.
Let me ask this. So we're all complaining about what happened at the convention, right? What's the plan going forward? Are we going to continue complaining, or what are we going to do?
I don't know. That's a good question. What is the plan?
Everybody who's listening here, let's come up with a plan.
Right.
Let's get Zooms going.
Proactive.
Let's get the meetings of the mind so that this doesn't repeat.
Mm-hmm. Yep. TYGT says Derek stepped up and did a great David Cross endorsement video. Succinct, poignant, and hard-hitting. I'm not sure if that was Derek that did that, but anyway, yeah, that was a good video. I was in that video, so I loved it. All right, man. So listen, I always give my guests the last word. I'm fixing to give it to you. I just want to remind folks and thank y'all. We got a bunch of people in here tonight watching with us. It's been my pleasure. I'd love to bring you back. I hope that we can form a relationship where we can help each other to move forward in the right direction. And I really dig what you're doing and what you're saying. We've got to get more people involved, and we've got to organize, right? That's one thing the Democrats are so well at doing, and so
we can do it. We can do it.
We can.
We just gotta apply ourselves, and we can do it.
Absolutely. And folks, I just want to remind you out there that we're going to be ramping up for the October 4th, the Patriot Camp Out, where I'm looking. It's going to be so good this year. So I'll start laying that stuff out. Don't forget about smalltownunderground.com. You can go buy a cool Small Town Underground shirt. And Angel, I'm going to give you the last word, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna say two phrases here. One is going to be in Spanish, and the other one is going to be in Latin. And the Spanish one is "En la unión está la fuerza." When we come together, that's where our strength is. So our strength is unified, right? And the last one I'm going to say is "De opreso liber." That was my motto in Special Forces: to free the oppressed. Wow. And right now we're oppressed.
That's right.
So we got to free ourselves. And the way we're going to free ourselves is by getting out there, communicating, organizing, and moving.
Right. That sounds good, folks. Everybody, I send my love and prayers out to you. Thank you for you guys are making this possible. Thanks for watching. Don't think I'll be doing much. I think I'm going to the Blue Ribbon on Friday. I might have a video. Other than that, we'll have the next week. We got some big stuff coming. But you stay on the line, Angel, and guys, we're going to get out of here. Thanks again. You guys be safe. Have a great evening. Hey everybody, Small Town Underground here, and I'd like for you to check out libertylaughs.net. This is a website that supports grassroots patriots, and it has all kinds of stuff in it, like rings, coins, t-shirts, tank tops, both in men's and women's sizes, different sort of accessories, even patriotic stuff, like look at these sneakers, Don't Tread on Me sneakers, those are pretty cool, and door knockers, and look, they even have a Trump phone case, which is really, really cool. So anytime you go to this site, you're actually supporting the grassroots patriot community. So I hope you guys will go to check out libertylaughs.net and see what they have to offer.